Welcome to Minxie's Audio Tales. Please remember to like and subscribe. Chapter 1, Trouble Next Door. The sun cast a warm, golden glow over Telluride as I stood behind the counter of my bakery, Sweet Serenity, carefully arranging freshly baked pastries in the display window. It was just another peaceful morning in our charming little town, or at least it was until I saw him. Through the window, my gaze locked onto the tall figure striding down the cobblestone street. He moved with an air of confidence, and even from a distance, I could tell he didn't belong here. Not in our quiet, close-knit Telluride, where everyone knew everyone and tourists were usually the only ones who dared to stand out. I watched as he approached, his crisp suit and designer shoes clashing against the rustic backdrop of our picturesque town. As he reached the bakery, he paused to glance at our sign, then peered through the window. I could see the curiosity in his eyes as he took in the sight of the freshly baked goods. Pushing through the door, he entered the bakery, the delicate chime of the bell announcing his arrival. The scent of freshly baked bread and sweet pastries enveloped him as he stepped inside. I greeted him with a friendly smile, masking my initial apprehension. "Good morning. Welcome to Sweet Serenity. How can I help you today?" He removed his sunglasses and looked at me with piercing blue eyes that seemed out of place in our cozy little bakery. His voice was smooth and confident, with a hint of a city accent. "I'll take a cappuccino and a croissant, please." I nodded and quickly prepared his order. As I handed him the steaming cup of coffee and a freshly baked croissant, I couldn't help but study him. He had an air of mystery about him, and I was curious to know what had brought him to our small town. "Are you new to Telluride?" I asked as I handed him his order. He took a sip of his cappuccino and looked around, seemingly unfazed by the quaint charm of the bakery. "Yes, I am. I just opened an art gallery next door." I raised an eyebrow. "Next door? That's the old bookstore, right?" He nodded. "That's the one. I've transformed it into a gallery for contemporary art." I couldn't hide my surprise. The old bookstore had been a beloved fixture in Telluride for as long as I could remember. "That's quite a change. What made you decide to open an art gallery here?" He took another sip of his coffee before answering, "I believe Telluride has hidden talent, and I want to showcase that to the world. This town has a unique charm, and I want to capture it through art." I was taken aback by his response. Most newcomers were content to enjoy the beauty of Telluride without trying to change it. But there was something about the way he spoke, a passion in his eyes, that intrigued me despite my initial reservations. We chatted for a few more minutes as he savored his croissant, and I couldn't help but notice the expensive watch on his wrist and the air of affluence that surrounded him. He was certainly not the typical Telluride resident. As he finished his coffee, he stood up and extended his hand. "I'm Cadence Sunder, by the way." I shook his hand, a polite smile on my face. "I'm Lily Bennett, owner of Sweet Serenity." Before he left, he added, "I'll be hosting a grand opening event for the gallery in a few weeks. I hope you can make it." I nodded, not entirely sure if I wanted to attend an event hosted by the man who had turned the old bookstore into an art gallery. As he walked out of the bakery, I couldn't help but wonder what changes Cadence Sunder would bring to Telluride, and whether those changes would be for better or worse. Over the next few weeks, I couldn't escape the presence of Cadence Sunder and his art gallery. The transformation of the old bookstore had drawn both curiosity and criticism from the townspeople. Some embraced the change, eager to see Telluride's beauty captured in art, while others lamented the loss of a cherished bookstore. One sunny afternoon, I was outside the bakery, arranging a display of freshly baked bread when I heard a commotion coming from next door. I turned to see a group of townspeople gathered outside the art gallery, their voices raised in protest. I couldn't make out the details of their grievances, but it was clear that Cadence had ruffled some feathers. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to approach the gathering. As I got closer, I recognized familiar faces among the protesters, including Tom, the owner of the town's hardware store, and Mary, who ran the local library. Tom's voice boomed as he spoke, "This art gallery is driving away our small businesses. We've lost the bookstore, and now we're losing customers to this fancy place." Mary chimed in, "And what about the character of our town? We can't let it be overrun by outsiders." Cadence stood at the entrance of the gallery, his expression calm but resolute. I understand your concerns, but I believe that art can enrich our lives and bring new opportunities to Telluride. I'm not here to take away from the town but to add to its culture. The debate continued, and it became clear that the townspeople were divided on the issue. I couldn't help but feel torn. While part of me admired Cadence's passion for art and his desire to bring something new to Telluride, another part of me understood the concerns of my fellow townspeople. As the crowd slowly dispersed, I found myself making my way toward Cadence. He looked exhausted but determined. "Rough day?" I asked, offering a sympathetic smile. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "You could say that. It's not easy being the outsider trying to make a place for himself in a tight-knit community." I nodded, understanding the complexity of the situation. Telluride is a special place, Cadence. People here are protective of it, and change can be hard for them to accept. He looked at me, gratitude in his eyes. "Your bakery has become a haven for me in this town. Thank you for your support, Lily." I smiled, touched by his words. "You're welcome, Cadence. Just remember, not everyone in Telluride is against you. Some of us are willing to give you a chance." He nodded, and for a moment, I saw a vulnerability in him that he rarely showed to the world. It made me wonder what lay beneath his confident exterior. As the days turned into weeks, Cadence's art gallery continued to be a source of contention in Telluride. The protests grew louder, and tensions ran high. It seemed like my initial assessment of Cadence as trouble was proving to be true. Despite the turmoil, I couldn't deny the intrigue that surrounded him. He was a man of contradictions, a wealthy outsider who was passionate about the town he now called home. And as much as I tried to resist, I found myself drawn to him, curious to unravel the layers of the enigmatic Cadence Sunder. Little did I know that our paths were about to cross in a way that would change both of our lives forever.